happening to you too. We're out here at Lydia's Bridge in Jamestown, North Carolina. We live locally to here, and all my life I've known about it. But that sign, we just put on here, that was placed actually May of 2023. So that's pretty cool. They got the sign up now. They're trying to keep this legend alive. It's changed over the years a little bit. You got a story that's over 100 years old with Lydia's Bridge. So supposedly this is what happened is Lydia was killed in a single car accident back in the 1920s, and some say, hey, she was going home from with her boyfriend from the prom, and then they had a crash. It killed her. And then right after that, sightings started occurring where people would be passing by and see the lady in white or the vanishing hitchhiker, and she's hitchhiking to come home. So they pick her up and they take her to a house in High Point, and she gets out, supposedly vanishes, right? The driver pulls in the driveway, pulls up to the house, and she goes, hey, my parents live in High Point, take me here. And then what happens? He gets out, looks, and she's gone. So supposedly sometimes they'll go to the doorbell and knock on or ring the doorbell and ask. A woman comes to the door. They say, hey, did this lady named Lydia get out of the car and come in? And she would say, that's my daughter. She died a few years ago in a car crash. I guess she's just trying to get home. But in reality, what we have found out is there was no prom. And she's too old to be going to the prom. Because what they found out is Annie L. Jackson was killed in a car accident out here. She would have been about 35 years old. And she lived in Greensboro, and she worked locally. I don't know if it was like a cigar company or a lab or something like that. But anyway, there's some articles that talk about this car accident in the Patriot. So June of 1920, the car had 4 people in it, and Annie was killed at the scene. The car overturned, and she was thrown out of the car and died from a head injury. The EMS and everything reports that arrival to the hospital was about 10:30 p.m. that night, and she was dead on arrival. The others may have been injured. The driver ran away on foot. His last name was Hutchinson, and days later he was arrested and charged for reckless driving and the death of Annie. So it was a guy named Hutchinson. Mr. Cross was in the car, was the other guy, and Annie was a lady, and there was another lady named Nettie. I think I have it written down. Nettie Lethco. And it says that yeah, it was June 20th, 2020 is what I have wrote down. This is when the wreck happened. So that's interesting. And she's buried in Greensboro at Holt's Chapel Cemetery. We'll try to go out there, but I don't know that we can see the grave because I think they have it chained up, fenced up, and locked up, that little small graveyard at Holt's Chapel. So Annie was born April 28th of 1885, and then she, of course, died June 20th of 1920. And her middle initial is an L for Lydia. And then supposedly a family member, a great aunt or something, was doing research too and came to the same conclusion and had a photograph of Annie and says that basically, yep, confirms it, that story is the true one. So now we kind of know. 1916 to 1930 something, let me see. Yeah, the bridge was built in 1916 by the railroad company. And what you have is this. That's the bridge, 1916. And there's a placard also over here. I don't know if you can see it or not. And then roughly the 1930s, it might have been 36, something like that, is when they relocated the road about 160 yards away. So did the sightings stop after they relocated the road in the 1930s? Or is it just because now times have changed and this is all touristy now and easy to get to, and we don't pick up hitchhikers no more or whatnot? And some, you know, they found out the true story back, what, 2017, I think? So maybe now that everybody knows her real name, maybe sightings have stopped because of that reason. But not as many sightings, but several people over the years in the 1920s and 30s claim that they see this hitchhiker out here on a foggy, rainy night. And you gotta think, back in the day, this bridge was very unsafe to go in and out of. So it was also unsafe. People had trouble seeing, and that night it might have been foggy and rainy when they had that wreck. But yeah, back in the day, I remember coming out here before, when I was grown up with weeds and everything, we would hike in to this tunnel. That was really cool back then. I was trying to dig out some pictures if I can find them and post them too. But that is Lydia's Bridge, and anybody can come out here and walk to it pretty easily now. And they got concrete on the floor and fixed up some arches on each side. That's the relocated road, about 160 yards from the original. Hi YouTube, hope this video turns out. We're at the graveyard Holt's family cemetery. Ironically, there's railroad tracks that run behind the cemetery. Just like railroad tracks ran over that underpass, either the bypass or whatever you want to call it, that tunnel in Jamestown. So you got railroad tracks over here, they run behind it. This is the cemetery. That's the cemetery. So you got a wire fence up, a barbed wire around this small cemetery. Here is where Annie L. Jackson is buried. We're gonna go to the other side and try to film a few shots, but that's why we can't get into the cemetery. But we'll be right back with you. There's the railroad tracks. And right here's the gate. Holt's Chapel Cemetery, Bessemer United Methodist Church. 1870, 1932 is on the sign. So to get access to the cemetery, you'd have to probably contact the church. But the grave is inside. The fence. So it's inside the fence there, all locked up. That's why you can't go to Annie L. Jackson's grave. We have a photo of it though. We'll try to post that up hopefully y'all enjoyed the video. It's just brief on this Lydia Bridge story, the ghost, the Vanishing Hitchhiker. Just something we thought we'd do since we live so close to it, and we forgot to even post it because it's everyday life for us, this story. But hopefully you learned some stuff from it. Give us a like, follow for more cool stuff, and we'll hit you back on the next adventure. Something's going on, folks. Something's going on. The alarm's coming out. Train is actually coming. Is this not crazy? The train's actually coming. Everything's trying to block us from this graveyard. Is that not crazy? Everything is against us on getting to this gravesite.